Shalom and welcome. This week's Parsha portion is Pinchas, the third portion in the book of Numbers that's named for a person. And it's an interesting portion. It starts out with the finishing of a story that began at the end of last week's portion about this guy Pinchas, who's really a Kohen, who stops a plague by killing two people, and the reason for it was that they were playing with other gods. But that's not the entirety of what's in the portion. We find other things in the portion, among them being a revisit to the daughters of Zelophehad, the laws of inheritance, and immediately following that, a small section dealing with Moses and his ability to enter the promised land, or actually to not enter the promised land. So I thought it would be interesting to explore this conversation between Moses and God, but do so as if it were taking place today in the 21st century. An interesting aspect. Biblical stuff, but with technology like we have today. So I hope you enjoy the story. Moses' cell phone rings. He looks at the phone. Why is God calling me? We just finished talking about the laws of inheritance. Yes, God? Moses, I need to talk to you. I had something very important to discuss with you. My mobile office is parked up on the mountain. Come on up and see me. So Moses leaves the camp, and he finds his way up the mountain. And he gets to a clearing among the rocks, and there is this large vehicle, looks like a converted over-the-road bus with a lot of antennas on the top. So Moses walks up, knocks on the door, come in. So Moses opens the door, walks in. He's immediately impressed by how big this thing is. This is really large. And he says, boy, this is really something. Large. Roomy. Yes, it is. And I have a full communication system, and I have a full drone control system, and it's really very comfortable also. Come over here and sit down. I have something to show you. So Moses walks over. God is actually sitting by the drone controls, and as he sits down, he sees this huge screen. And you think, gee, this has to be at least a 60-inch screen. And look at that picture, it's so sharp. It has to be high def. So he sits down, and he and God are sitting there together looking at each other. Two old friends. God then tells Moses, I've been thinking and I've made a decision, and I'm afraid it's not very good news. You know, I was very disappointed with what you did back at Meribah in Kadesh. I asked you to speak to the rock, and you got all upset and everything, and you struck the rock, not once but twice, showing a very serious lack of faith. Now, I understand you got upset and very distraught with people, but still, that kind of serious lack of faith, and in front of all the people. You know, your brother and your sister, Aaron and Miriam, are already gone. You, Joshua, and Caleb are the only three left from the generation that I brought out of Egypt. And you are not going to be able to enter the land. You are going to join your brother and your sister. But before that happens, I have something to show you. You deserve to be able to at least see the land, even though you won't be able to go in. So I want you to watch the screen. And with that, God turned to the console and he released a number of photo drones and directed them as where to go. And the images started appearing on this screen, and they were overlapping. And as Moses watched, this screen grew so that all the images fit on the screen. And then God started to describe what was happening. Says, Moses, this is the promised land. I want you to see this. This is, you see the seashore and the mountains and the valleys and the rivers and the deserts and the fields. And yes, even some of the existing cities. You can see it all very clearly here. This is the inheritance of the Israelites. Well, Moses just sat there and watched. He was entranced by the images. And finally, the screen grew dark. Moses sat there. Tears were in his eyes. Finally, he looked up. You know, we have to pick a leader. You have to tell me who should lead the people. Because somebody needs to lead them when the army goes out and when the army comes back. And somebody needs to lead the camp. And we can't leave them like sheep without a shepherd. God smiles. He looks at Moses. Moses, always thinking of the people. Okay, you're right. I want you to take Joshua the son of Nun. He's been your assistant and your student for these many years. And I want you to bring him before Eleazar the priest in front of all of the people. And there you will put your hands upon his head and you will give him a charge to be the leader of the people. And you will transfer some of your kavod, some of your kindness and some of your spirit to him there in front of all the people. And he will lead the people. And when he needs guidance, he will consult with Eleazar the priest, who will give him advice based on his consulting of the Urim. So now, I want you to go back down and do this and make Joshua the leader from this point on. And then I have a few more things that you need to do, and then you will be gathered to your kin. Well, Moses thanked God, and he left, and he started walking back down the mountain. And he went a short distance, and he turned around and looked, and there was nothing there. There was just a clearing among the rocks. Moses took a deep breath, turned, and continued down the mountain, where he conferred the leadership of the Israelites upon Joshua, just as God had instructed him to. And that is my story. How do we pass leadership on from one person to another? And it's interesting to see how our Torah, at least in this one instance, tells us how that should be done. I hope you enjoyed the modern interpretation. Shalom.